Hi, I'm Sloth Ellie. Are you struggling with GCSE Biology or just want to improve your general knowledge? Stay tuned to find out all you need to know about Chapter 1 GCSE Biology. The characteristics of a living organism determine whether something is qualified as being alive. The characteristics for a living being are the following: movement, which means that an organism can move or grow on its own; respiration, which means that substances are taken in and metabolic reactions take place; sensing, meaning that an organism can feel changes in its environment; homeostasis, which is the maintenance of internal conditions, as well as growth as in cells divide, and reproduction without requirement of outside intervention, as well as excretion, which is the removal of waste substances, and last nutrition, describing the breakdown of large insoluble molecules into smaller soluble ones. All these characteristics can be remembered easily with Mrs. H. Gren, since sloths like me are way too lazy to learn it otherwise. Eukaryotic cells are those which have a nucleus inside of them. Those without are classed as prokaryotes. Eukaryotes include plants, animals like sloths, fungi, and protists. Plants typically have cellulose cell walls, carry out photosynthesis, which means they have autotrophic nutrition, and store carbohydrates as starch or sucrose. We will come back to this later. Animals like me can usually move, have a nervous system, and store our carbohydrates as glycogen because we are heterotrophic in our nutrition. Fungi can be single or multicellular and carry out digestion outside of their body, making them saprotrophic. Protists are a very diverse group that contain loads of organisms, for example amoeba, of which many are aquatic and live in water. Prokaryotes include bacteria, which are usually single-celled and contain plasmids, which are circular DNA storage units. Pathogens are nasty microorganisms that cause disease and can make animals like me go from this to this. Ugh. These pathogens include some bacteria like Salmonella, some fungi like athlete's foot, and some protists such as Plasmodium, which causes malaria. Viruses are all pathogens, but are not organisms. The tobacco mosaic virus, for example, prevents plants from forming chloroplasts. A plant cell contains the following parts: a cell wall, which keeps a cell turgid; a cell membrane that controls what enters and exits the cell; a cytoplasm, which stores solutes and is the site of metabolic reactions; a vacuole, which also keeps the cell turgid; mitochondria, which are the site of respiration; ribosomes, that are the site of protein synthesis, as well as a nucleus that controls the activities of the cell and contains genetic information; and lastly chloroplasts, which are the site of photosynthesis and contain chlorophyll. Animal cells contain all these beside the vacuole, chloroplast, and cell wall. Fungi contain all these besides the chloroplast. Protists can contain the same elements as animal cells, but may also have all organelles that a plant has. Bacteria only contain cell wall and membrane, cytoplasm, and ribosomes. Because this is a lot to memorize, stay tuned to the end for a cheat sheet to make it easier. The levels of organization are the units that large multicellular organisms can be split into. The smallest unit is an organelle, which is a component of a cell with a particular function, such as the mitochondria. The cell has organelles in it and is the smallest functional unit of an organism. Tissues are groups of cells of the same type that fulfill a particular function in an organ. An organ is a group of tissues performing a common function, and an organ system is a group of organs carrying out an overall function in the organism, such as the digestive system. Differentiation is the process during which less specialized stem cells specialize into cells with a specific function, for example red and white blood cells. Carbohydrates are a biological molecule that are made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in the ratio 1 to 2 to 1, and which are used to store and release energy. The simplest basic unit of a carbohydrate is a monosaccharide. The monosaccharides are glucose, fructose, and galactose. Two of these can bind together to form disaccharides, such as lactose, maltose, and sucrose, and many can form together to form a polysaccharide. Starch is typically found in plants, while glycogen is found in animals as storage, as both have no osmotic effect. Cellulose is found in the cell wall and provides structural support. Proteins are needed for growth and repair and are made of 20 different amino acids. The functions range from enzymes to carrier proteins. For plants to synthesize proteins, they need to absorb nitrates from the earth. Fats are also used for energy storage and are hydrophobic, which means that they repel water. They are made of one glycerol and three fatty acids and act as a thermal and electrical insulator as well as a shock absorber. Let's imagine that I have a mysterious substance and want to find out what is inside. There's a series of tests that can be carried out to determine the presence of certain substances. When adding Benedict's reagent to a substance and heating it, the presence of glucose will cause the formation of a brick red precipitate. When adding iodine to starch, the color changes from orange to a blue-black. When adding alcohol to a substance containing lipids and shaking the mixture, a milky white suspension forms. When adding bio-red reagent to a solution containing protein, the color changes from pale blue to lilac. Enzymes are proteins that act as biological catalysts and can be reused. They have a specifically shaped active site complementary to the shape of the substrates, enabling them to form enzyme-substrate complexes, which can also be called ESCs. Each enzyme has a unique optimum temperature and pH at which it operates best. Before or after that, the enzymes denature, changing the shape of the active site and preventing the formation of ESCs. Diffusion is the net movement of particles from an area of higher to lower concentration. Diffusion is affected by four main factors. Faster diffusion can be achieved through higher surface area to volume ratio, lower diffusion distance, higher temperature, and a steeper concentration gradient. Osmosis is the diffusion of water through a partially permeable membrane from an area of higher to lower water potential, so from a less to a more concentrated solution. Active transport is a form of transport that works against the concentration gradient and therefore requires energy and carrier proteins. Animal cells that are placed in a concentrated solution shrink and shrivel because water moves out of them. In a less concentrated solution, they burst because too much water moves into the cell. When a plant cell is placed in concentrated solution, water moves outwards and the cell undergoes plasmolysis, which means that it shrinks and shrivels, and cell wall and membrane separate. In a less concentrated solution, the cell stays turgid due to structural support from the vacuole and cellulose cell wall. Since we're coming to the end of the video, as promised, here's the cheat sheet, so feel free to pause and take a screenshot now.